Hey everybody, the Bong is here for the third ever episode of my weekly Q&As, and this is the opportunity for you to ask me any specific or personal questions, and I'll be sure to answer them to the best of my abilities. Or to the worst, depending on the question itself. If you have any other questions, just put them in the comments below, so let's get started. AClown7 says, if you could have any job as profession or career, what would it be and why, excluding YouTube Let's Playing? Personally, I like to be either a baker or a cook because I like to get creative in the kitchen. For me, when I look at recipes, I always feel like, oh, I gotta tweak this, I gotta improve that. Like, it's almost like the chemist side of me, even though I never really took chemistry in high school. I want to experiment as much as possible to come up with many different flavors. And there have been many hits. Some were misses, like for example, putting brownies in muffin tins, paper and all, was a bad idea. Making like cookies out of Nutella and pie crusts, good idea. If you can get it out of the oven fast enough, like say 10 minutes in a 450-degree oven, to make sure it doesn't burn. Because it can burn pretty quickly. I mean, if you're working with sugar and all, anything with sugar burns faster, just so you know. GoodGamer1994 says, who is your favorite character to play as in Mario Kart 8? Lemmy Koopa, and I don't know why. I've always been a fan of the Koopalings, and sometimes I like to play as Yoshi, or Toad, or Koopa Troopa. I don't like playing as heavy characters. I used to play as lightweights because I feel they can get around faster. However, with more aggressive AI in Mario Kart 8, where they would really bump you around, especially if you're playing online where getting bumped is worse, because they do it on purpose, I try to go for a little bit of a middle ground. Heavy characters I still don't like because even though they got good top speed, it takes them a while to get there. That's just my personal preference. Fireman21134 says, thanks for answering my question. Well, thank you for asking one in the first place. And I've been a fan of your LPs since I first started watching them back in 2011. I have a few questions this time. Number 1, out of the entire Zelda franchise, which one was your most favorite of all time and why is that? I would say Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past because it would be one of the first Zelda games I played. Well, thoroughly. First one I actually played overall was the original Legend of Zelda, but I felt that A Link to the Past just did it better because it was graphically awesome and there was a lot to explore. Number 2, he also asked, what sport do you watch the most and why? Mine is hockey. That's mine as well. I love watching hockey, depending on who's playing. Now, I definitely don't watch poker, and I don't understand why that's a sport. I mean, they just sit down, looking over their shades and their feather hats and fedoras, looking all pretentious, saying like, hey, I got pocket aces, but you don't know that. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, seriously, they get so much money playing cards. It's ridiculous. I would rather watch darts than poker. Darts is actually a level of skill, whereas poker it's mainly luck and hoping that your opponent is dumb to the point they'll fold with pocket kings even though there's a king on the flop. It's flop, then the turn, then the river, or maybe I got it the other way around. I know the river is the last one, but is it the flop, the first 3, then the turn, then the river, or is it the turn, then the flop, then the river? That goes to show I don't play a lot of poker. I did come close in a poker tournament once, but I was still in college at the time. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Lastly, have you ever heard of the Toho series, and if you have, would you consider LPing any of the games and or fan-made ones? Also, who is your most favorite character from Toho? Probably none of them, because I've heard of Toho, but I don't really play a lot of it. I've played some Mega Mario, but I can never get very far in that game. Well, that's what those games are supposed to be like. They're bullet hell games designed to be really, really hard. So it's very likely I will not be playing a Toho game anytime soon, even though I've had some requests for it over the years. Ryan Bragg says, any plans to play more Pokemon games such as Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness? Well, I don't have Gale of Darkness, and I believe you ordered it for me, Bragg, on eBay. So I would consider it someday, maybe a 15,000 subscriber special, but that's really up in the air at this point. I'd consider Pokemon GBA ROM hacks, but I'd have to look in to see which one would be good for me and which one is actually completed, because I don't want to deal with any that are unfinished. Just don't ask me to do a Nuzlocke or Wedlock run, because there's so many of those already that many people are actually playing the same game 3 or 4 times, doing different types of runs with it. Like, seriously, I would get bored with it. That's why you would never see me as a PokeTuber. I just can't do the same type of game over and over. I mean, I love Mario ROM hacks, I love Zelda games, I love Dynasty Warriors games, but you don't see me play them religiously all the time. I have other games in my variety. Even though I may not get a ton of views for like different types of games, over a while, like, someone will be looking for that specific game, and hey, guess what? Play with the Teletubbies for the PlayStation 1 is still my most watched Let's Play. Beavis and Butthead for the Super Nintendo is probably a close second, or Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. Wish I did more Mythologies games in the Mortal Kombat series. I would like to see, like, a Kano one, or a Scorpion one, or even a Shao Kahn one. But, anyways, back to the questions. William the Unpro Pro says, about your answer, yeah, that makes sense, I guess. Oh, wait, that wasn't even a question. That was just a response to his previous question. That I don't even remember what it was. I should really read the comment before I just continue on. Hideo L. Ryushima says, you said you record your Let's Plays in batches, but how much time do you put into these recording sessions, and how much time do you put into editing, and which editing software do you use? I'm not really big on editing, however, I don't want to put up completely raw gameplay either. If it comes to certain things where I screw up colossally and it's very early, I would just scrap it and just go back to where I was. And if it was very late, then I would just keep it in, because sometimes my live reaction is going to make up for my shortcomings. So if there are some things, if I have to go from point A to point B, but I've been to point B like several times, and the backtracking takes like 2 or 3 minutes, I would cut that out because nobody would see that, and I would have nothing to say, given I'm not anywhere new. So there'll be stuff like that. When it comes to like my capture card Let's Plays, I do use Pinnacle Studio. It is a bit of an outdated version, however, if it works, don't, try to fix it. Like, don't fix what isn't broken, you know what I mean? And when it comes to like emulator or PC Let's Plays, I use Camtasia. I'm not really big on editing to try to make everything look fancy. I just try to make sure that it looks watchable, so to speak. The Last Red Mage says, since you played Dynasty Warriors, what do you think of Hyrule Warriors? I thought I actually answered that question last week, and I'm really looking forward to it. In fact, I already pre-ordered it at EB Games, which means I'd get the Ocarina of Time code for DLC. Like the free DLC that will get you some alternate attire. Best Buy has the Skyward Sword one, right, if I recall. And I think maybe, is it Walmart that's going to have the Twilight Princess one? I have no idea. Either way, it looks like I'm getting the Ocarina of Time one, and I might get the other DLC at a later date. But usually when it comes to DLC related to the Warriors games, I mostly focus on try to find the ones for stages, especially in Dynasty Warriors 8, where you get like new stages, and you get like a special stage related to that map that allows you to unlock an animal, which of course has a super hard mission you would have to fulfill. One of them was a pain in the ass because I kept losing my commander within like 2 or 3 minutes as soon as I leave him alone. So those are the things you have to pay attention to when you're actually playing DLC missions, because they're actually harder, and that's a good thing. EB Agent J says, I know it's been a long time no see, another long story she has in brackets, but if you check the latest vid on my channel, you see that you've been tagged or challenged for the ALS Bucket Challenge. I've been challenged a couple times in that. I don't know if I'm actually going to do it. Personally, when it comes to ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease as it's also called, I'd probably just consider donating a few bucks. I don't mean like $4 or $5. I mean like obviously more than that. The amount is just undisclosed at this time. So you likely won't be seeing me with ice water being dumped all over my head. Not anytime soon, or on purpose by me. Nicholas Johnson said, what is your favorite Mega Man Battle Network game so far and why? Out of the ones I've played, 1 through 4, and I also got to count Network Transmission for the GameCube as well, probably 3 was the best. For some reason, I liked that story a hell of a lot better, the music was really good, and the battles were just so interesting. 4, I give a lot of gripes because you have to play the game 3 times to unlock everything, especially get to the base battle unless you're using cheats. 1 was a bit too short for me, and 2, while obviously longer, it just didn't have the same appeal that 3 had. But that's just me, it's all preference. Nick the Gamer 1110 says, hey Bonga, got any tips for Let's Players on YouTube? Also, love your videos. There wasn't even any punctuation except for that apostrophe in Let's, but I'm not like a grammar Nazi. If I was, I'd probably be dead. Anyways, let's get back to the question. If you're going to be like a new Let's Player, you got to be patient. Because you're a new guy, there's already a lot of Let's Players as is, like some every day getting started. And, you know, if you're going to be putting up stuff that everybody's already seen, it's probably going to be put on the back burner compared to fans that have already seen these type of games from high-profile Let's Players that you might just get lost in the crowd. Also, your first stuff is going to be bad. My first stuff is terrible. Trust me on this one. You're actually playing a game, you're talking at the same time, whether it's live commentary or post-commentary. It's hard to think of things to say when you're starting out. So you're going to be all over the place, and you're going to be thinking, should I be an informative Let's Player? Should I just crack some jokes? Blah, blah, blah. Or do what I did from 2008 to 2010 is just profusely swear, because shocking commentary tends to be funny. That's what I thought back in the time. So your first stuff is going to be bad. You will get constructive criticism. They're not trying to be a dick about it. Just pay attention to what they're saying. Work on that kind of stuff. If it's stuff like, oh, you suck, you should die, and then end comment, well, I'm not telling you to kill yourself to improve, because that would be a bad idea. I mean, how are you going to make Let's Plays if you're dead? I was like, hey, I'm recording from beyond the grave, blah, 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 ooh. I wonder if Let's Players from beyond the grave only do Slenderman or horror games. I don't know. But anyways, your stuff at first is going to be bad. It's going to be understandable. Just keep working at it, and it's going to get better. You just got to be patient with that kind of thing, and you got to be able to handle whatever comments you get. If you get all negative about it, you'll not get anywhere. Colonel... Oh, no, actually, I'm going to answer his question later, because I'm going to skip one. TheJew22 says, who's going to win the Stanley Cup in 2015? The Atlanta Thrashers. No. They're gone to Winnipeg now, so... Who's going to win the Cup in 2015? Personally, I think the Colorado Avalanche are going to win. I think they just got a very good young core. They got an awesome coach in Patrick Waugh. They got Jerome McGinley for that veteran influence. I think if goaltending plays really well, and hopefully Matt Cook doesn't take out another one of their young stars in the playoffs, they'll definitely go far. What I mean is that one of their top players, one of the young players, Tyler Berry, I think it was, got took out by Matt Cook, and then the Avs never recovered ever since, lost to Minnesota. So if they can maintain like very good momentum and keep Iginla and McKinnon going strong, they're going to go far and probably win it. Either that or Boston, because, you know, they're a tough team to play against anyway. Colonel112 says, while you've completed nearly 500 Let's Plays, a feat wheel worth it. Damn it, Cole, can you spell well? You have done some co-ops, and even beat some guy that is asking this question in a Super Mario Kart Versus. Yes, you can find that on Much Games Guides, by the way. Which co-op Let's Play would you consider the best one you've done, whether it was the Wheel of Fortune, or Final Fight 3 on your channel, or New Super Mario Bros. Wii and U, Kirby's Return to Dreamland, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Subspace Emissary, Mario Party 1 and 2, or Super Mario Bros. 3 with Colette NL180? Actually, there's more to this question. Of Wheel of Fortune for the Wii U as well. I would say Mario Parties 1 and 2 were my favorite, especially 2, even though I've dealt with some major BS at the very end of it. You should watch that Let's Play if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about. Last Turn, Bowser Land. You don't want to miss it, trust me on this one. But that was still my best one because of all the memories. Mikey Burns says, would you LP Super Paper Mario, Mega Man Star Force, and Sly Cooper in the future? Yes, unlikely, and yes. Because, Mega Man Star Force, again, is on the DS, and DS emulation is a crapshoot. Even though I can borrow Ryan Bragg's 3DS capture card, I don't even have the Star Force games. So it'll likely be a while before you see that at all. If anything, at least wait till I finish Battle Networks 5 and 6 before I can even consider the Star Force series. Paul Province says, what's your least favorite Dynasty Warriors character? Shuju of Wei. He is slow, he is bulky, and he just sounds like a total derp. His movement is slow, his weapon is slow. When I tried getting his 5th weapon in Dynasty Warriors 8, I almost got killed 5 or 6 times because he can't even get a combo whenever there's like 2 or 3 enemies around him. It was just atrocious to play as him. And, I'm just not a fan of him. Another one of my least favorite characters, probably Lu Su of Wu, because his weapon is also slow, even though he's slightly better with a weapon than Shuju. His Muso is pretty bad. You have to aim it very properly. But he's a good character, just not one I like to play as. Dying Worthlessly 666 says, have you ever played the Samurai Warriors series? Yes, I have. I own the first game, and I'd like to consider getting 2, 3, and 4 someday in the future. And if so, which do you prefer, Dynasty Warriors or Samurai Warriors? Well, obviously Dynasty Warriors, since I'm more familiar with it, but if I played Samurai Warriors more than that, I would have said it the other way around, because I'd be more familiar with it. Still getting used to Samurai Warriors, by the way. I've only beaten 2 campaigns, and not fully. There's still the bottom paths I need to do for Yukimura Sanada and Mitsuhide Akiichi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, but oh well, it happens. Anime Manga Gamer says, who are your favorite 6th Gen Pokemon from X and Y? I really like Delphox, who is your starter that evolves from Fennekin, because I'm always a big fan of Psychic types, and Fire and Psychic actually goes pretty well together. Outside the whole, Darmanitan Zen form. I was not really a fan of that. Another X and Y Pokemon I really like, Talonflame I really like, and Pangoro. I really like those a lot because they've been money for me throughout my run, trying to get all the badges. Also, what are your thoughts about fairy Pokemon? It took me a while to actually get used to them. In a way, I'm still not, because I don't even use Pokemon of the fairy type in my party. Maybe Sylveon, if I can get my Eevee to evolve like that. The gym for, the fairy Pokemon wasn't too bad, because I migrated an Aggron from either Gen 4 or Gen 5, and he wrecked ass. Did a really good job for me. I wanted to bring in my dragon types, but obviously that would have been a bad idea, because fairies are made to be strong against dragons. And poison types I'm not really a fan of, because they are terrible against the most powerful Pokemon attacks, which are usually of the psychic variety or the ground variety. So poison types are not really my thing. Well, maybe my favorite poison type overall would be Drapion, because it's poison and dark. You know what I mean? From Gen 4. So, if I was to go with a poison type, Drapion all the way. ShadTH15 says, if hypothetically there would be a Let's Play of Final Fantasy XII, will you LP the original, I think he means original, or International Zodiac Job System? Just to let you know, there is an unofficial English translation for international version. Yeah, I'm likely going to do the original version because that's the one I actually have. And if I do a Let's Play of Final Fantasy XII, I consider it, by the way, because I actually, one of the few people that actually did like the game. Everyone thinks Final Fantasy XII sucks. Trust me, 13 is worse. Because I had to spawn 3 games. I would definitely have to put a little bit of work into it to make sure that the gambits are going the way I want them to. Because when I originally played Final Fantasy XII, I've never beaten all the bosses, such as, like the rare hunts and the espers, so to speak. I think they're called espers in that game. Yeah, they are. Especially Zodiac. I've never even attempted him, and just that area in the mines kicks my ass as it is. Biohazard Shark 12345 says, though I know you don't like fighters much, what is your favorite type of fighter? 2D like Street Fighter Mortal Kombat, 2.5D like Dragon Ball Z Budokai or Fatal Fury, for Fury, by the way, or fully 3D like Tekken, the Naruto Storm series, or Dead or Alive. I'm more into the 2D style like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, though 2.5D style games such as Soul Calibur are not that bad either. When it comes to fully 3D like Tekken, I'm not good at those games at all. I will just be mashing buttons all day to the point my controller has bruises. Malpercio 450 says, have you thought of any games in the past you'd like to revisit? Chrono Trigger and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time I would definitely love to do. And maybe the Donkey Kong Country series games. There were some other ones like Soul Blazer I'd consider. However, I like to focus on newer projects rather than ones I've already did. Maybe do them better or 100% if you didn't. Also, why you no play Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne? Because I wouldn't get into the game. There might be that rare instance where I do an about phase and actually do it just for the sake of doing it. However, that's not going to be anytime soon. Veslance Naina says, hey! Ever have a smell or sound that definitely reminds you of a good old classic memory in gaming? Like that massive nostalgia anvil that drops on your head and you're like, whoa! Mine is definitely any of the Tomb Raider music PS1 original. To be honest, no, not really that I can recall. I mean, most of the times when I'm playing new games, I don't think about the old ones. Unless they're actually put there on purpose as an Easter egg. I probably don't have that many anvils drop on my head. Even though my commentary makes it sound like I've had 5 or 6 drop on me every single day. Zach Luke says, when are you going to play the next Chronicles of a Dark Lord game? Whenever it comes out. It was slated to come out in winter of 2014, but because of unforeseen circumstances like a computer tower being knocked down and some progress being lost and they had to recover backups, Chronicles of a Dark Lord Episode 2 War of the Abyss got delayed, though I did try out the demo and so far it's really good. And I hear they're adding new stuff to the game as well, like writing up the script, maybe new types of systems that we haven't seen in the first game. I cannot wait to do that. So whenever the game comes out, you might see a Let's Play of it within maybe a couple weeks or months, depending on how used to the game I am, given that compared to the first game, there's likely going to be hidden stuff. Like, even in places you would not think of looking, you're probably going to find some hidden things. Like, I know in Chronicles of the Dark Lord Episode 1, in one of the mountain areas where you take on an optional boss, you had to look in one of those squares to find some kind of key to the developer's room, which you would not think to look anywhere because it wasn't in an obvious spot. Unless you were mashing the action button everywhere or reading a walkthrough, you'd probably miss it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they put things like that in War of the Abyss. I cannot wait to play that game. It's probably going to be better than the first one. Patros2006 says, will you do first-person shooters like Duke Nukem 3D or Doom? I got Duke Nukem 3D for free when GOG, goodoldgaming.com, actually offered it for free for a day or two. Doom, maybe I'd have to get the game first and then try to get used to it because I like to play my games with a USB controller as opposed to the keyboard because I'm not that great a PC gamer. Adam Valero says, are you going to LP any of the Mario Party games? I did Mario Party Advance, and as for like Mario Party games, I tend to prefer them on Much Games Guys because they'd be co-ops as opposed to just me playing by myself. Are you going to make any Smash 4 videos? Probably not. Are you getting 3rd gen remakes? At first I didn't know what he mean by that third question, but then I realized it's probably about Pokemon Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. I will likely be getting Alpha Sapphire because Sapphire is my birthstone. And I will have to use the Pokemon Bank to move all my Pokemon from Y to Alpha Sapphire eventually. And hopefully I'll be able to get almost everything done in that game. I still have to go through Victory Road. I'm just too busy maxing out Battle Chateau just so I can train my Pokemon and get them to evolve. Because that's usually how I roll. I'm not one for EV grinding or shiny hunting. I just try to fill out my Pokedex as much as possible because that's my style of play. Bona Bona says, what advice would you give other Let's Players? Actually, I think I already answered that. What do you think of your Let's Play career? So far, it's going really well. I mean, within 3 or 4 years ago, I got partnered, so it looks like things are going Millhouse, or things are coming up Millhouse, I mean to say, but oh well. Where do you see your Let's Plays in 10 years? Probably on other people's sites if YouTube gets shut down. They'll probably still be on YouTube, because I don't plan on closing my channel down unless it's forced to close down. Big Mac Special Sauce, that is so weird. It's just Thousand Island dressing. Would it be possible for you to ever Let's Play the Half-Life series? Because that is the best video game series of all time, and you can get them off Steam. Maybe Half-Life 1, I'm not sure about 2. And Half-Life 3 is confirmed, because it just is. I don't think it's the best video game series of all time. Personally, I think it's Zelda, but that's just me. Best video game series of all time is subjective. Other people would say Pokemon. Other people would say Final Fantasy. Other people would say Sonic. And if they had more games, Battletoads be one of the best. Even if people would hate themselves playing it. Knight says, because it is easier to say that, he's just wondering why he prefers to be called that. Has a video game character ever taken the words out of your mouth as in they say exactly what you're thinking of that situation? There were certain instances, but it's mostly like going over game tutorials rather than just in the story. Meta527II, I think that's supposed to be 1-1. I've got one. Why is it on your earlier Mega Man Let's Plays you never said anything the final part and instead just played music? I should have answered that when he answered that in the comments for Mega Man 2, but back then I actually used to have like background music for my credits in 2008, and they would be Content ID tagged. So I had to play a little bit of music on them to get the tags off, but that would mute the rest of my commentary to replace it with that music. That was me back in the day. So obviously I don't do that anymore, I just accept the tag and move on. I just don't get monetized for that video, but if it's still watchable, then that's good enough for me. 1987 Doom Guy says, are you going to do a Let's Play of Secret of Mana 2 or the Dragon Warrior games? I already did a Let's Play of Secret of Mana 2, also known as Seiken Densetsu 3. As for Dragon Warrior / Dragon Quest, highly unlikely, because I never got into that series. Dustman says, would you ever do a Let's Play of The Uninvited for the NES? I can't find a good LP of this game anywhere. I don't know, because I've never really played that game myself. I'd have to look into it. What is your favorite item in Zelda games, he also asked. Either the bow and arrow or the hook shot. When I was playing Ocarina of Time after I'd beaten it a couple times, the game, every time I say beat it or beaten it, I have to go and explain, because many people will take that the wrong way. I would go as far as I can from an enemy and try to snipe them with my arrows. Of course, I had to make sure I had a large quiver to contain many arrows. It was just a lot of fun to see if I can pick off small enemies in the head. It was just something I loved to do. Oh, also, keep up the awesome work, Bonga. You are number 1. Aw, thanks. I don't think I'm number 1, but I think I'm doing pretty well. The Spinia says, hey Bonga, LP the Stanley Parable XD. That's not a question, that's more of a request. I have a request page on my website for that, and I likely won't be doing the Stanley Parable, because I just can't get into that type of game. Let's see, other questions. LP Grota says, do you have any plans of upgrading your gear in a new future so you're able to Let's Play more games of the last gen or current gen? Someday, but not anytime soon. Right now, I have a large enough library of what I can work with. However, even though if life changes get in the way, I would consider upgrading. He also has any plans of LPing the Tomba series. I've heard of Tomba. I should really try it out because it does look like a good game. I still remember when I saw that one video on YouTube where they actually remade one of the songs in Tomba to have Eminem sing over it. I don't remember what it was. But I'm pretty sure if you just type in Tomba Eminem, you'll find it right away unless it got taken down. He also asks, what is your least favorite game or game series? On a side note, thanks for the mentions, he put in brackets. Least favorite game series? To be honest, I don't really know other than Call of Duty. I mean, the first games were okay, and then after that it just got too pretentious with like 12-year-olds just talking about their sex lives with other people's moms. Pretty soon we'll be talking about their sex lives with their own moms. But that probably when we get Call of Duty Oculus Rift Edition. Which may not be for a long time. Goran Sakic says, can you tell us a couple LP that you do not including Zelda game that you will do for 14,000 subs? And can you name at least 5 of them? And that is not how my last name is pronounced. The last letter isn't K, it's the letter H. So it's Goran Sakic? I don't really know how to pronounce it. It's like an H with like a horizontal line on the top of it. But when I look at the name, it actually says K. It probably just didn't pick up that accented H, so to speak. So I apologize for getting your name wrong and getting it wrong again like less than a minute ago. I got a couple ideas, however they're not really considered for 14,000 subscribers. It's mostly for when I finish the other projects that I'm doing right now. You can find a couple of them on my main channel page, or like in the About section, you'll find a list there. And I'll probably add some ones once I confirm that I want to do them. Adam Thomas says, you seem to enjoy challenging games. What do you think of the Souls series? He's thinking about Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and Dark Souls 2. I'd consider playing them eventually. I don't have them right now, and unless I did upgrade my equipment, I likely won't be Let's Playing them. Personally, I like watching Let's Plays of Dark Souls, so to speak, just to see how many different ways you can die. And most times it's like completely unexpected. Like you're just walking and you're just going to climb down. Oh, there's no floor there. I died. Now I got to get my humanity back or my souls back. And it's just fun. So, if I did have the equipment, I'd consider a Let's Play of Demon Souls or Dark Souls. What do you think the next-gen consoles and do any interest you? Well, right now I got a Wii U, so I'm happy with that. You're likely not going to see me get an Xbox One. And as for a PS4, probably not for another couple years. Maybe when the price is a little bit better. Slater Alexander says, are you ever going to do Mega Man Legends? Maybe, you never know. It could be a 15,000 subscriber special. And you pronounce Ocarina wrong. No, I'm pretty sure I pronounced it as Ocarina. Unless my tongue slipped and I pronounced it a different way. Every time I hear people say it, it sounds like Ocarina. Back then I used to say Ocarina, and that was wrong. Or maybe it was right all along. I don't know. But I'm pretty sure it is Ocarina. Unless you have a different way of pronouncing it elsewhere, I just make it Ocarina. Like, hey, Ocarina. Nah, that's bad. So, that's all the questions for this episode. If you have any more questions, put them in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer them. Preferably ones that I haven't already answered before. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.